The Dallas Cowboys have plenty of intense position battles on the horizon when training camp begins in a little more than 1 month. Much has been made about the Cowboys' running back battle, with so much turnover at the position this offseason. Another skill position to watch is tight end, where Jake Ferguson has a strong hold on the starting position. Things are much less predictable behind Ferguson as players battle to emerge as the second tight end. Luke Schoonmaker is a former second-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, but his career has not exactly lived up to the lofty expectations. Schoonmaker has yet to reach 30 receptions or 300 receiving yards in either of his first 2 NFL seasons. USA Today's Ben Grimaldi makes the case for Brevin Spanford being a threat to Schoonmaker for the TE2 spot. Let's dive into the upcoming tight end battle. Brevin Spanford could replace Luke Schoonmaker as the Cowboys' TE2. Grimaldi predicts that the Cowboys will only keep 3 tight ends in Ferguson, Schoonmaker, and Spanford on the final 53-man roster. The Cowboys could face challenges in keeping more than 3 tight ends if Dallas retains additional running backs, a position facing much more uncertainty. Keeping 4 RBs and 6 WRs means the Cowboys go lighter at tight end, Grimaldi detailed in a June 18, 2025, story titled, 53-man roster prediction for the Dallas Cowboys after OTAs and minicamp. Also, with John Stevens working back from another ACL injury, there might not be another player worthy of a spot. Ferguson is the starter, but don't be surprised if Spanford takes over for Schoonmaker at T2 after a big offseason. Princeton Fant feels like a long shot, but if the team does keep 4, Fant is likely the guy. Cowboys HC Brian Schottenheimer on Brevin Spanford. He's pushing Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker. Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer spoke glowingly about Spanford during the team's offseason practices. Spanford played in all 17 games during his rookie season, but did not have a major role in the Cowboys' offense. The tight end posted 9 receptions for 88 yards in 2024. He had an incredible offseason, Schottenheimer said of Spanford on June 12, per Fort Worth Star-Telegram's Nick Harris. He really did. The size alone, he moves really well. I think he added 6 or 7 pounds of lean muscle mass. This guy is not just a run blocker and a pass protector. This guy can be a weapon because of his size in the middle of the field, matched up on linebackers and safeties. The thing I loved about Brev from day one is you knew that this wasn't too big for him. You knew mentally that he knew, I belong here. It doesn't matter how I got here, I belong here. And he's pushing Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker and all those guys. He's already made the jump. You ask me how I feel about it, he's already made the jump. He's another guy that when he puts the pads on you're going to see on the field. The Dallas Cowboys are consistently linked to stars in NFL rumors, but one analyst is pushing the franchise to pass on a 2-time Super Bowl champ. Von Miller remains unsigned after the Buffalo Bills released the 8-time Pro Bowler back in March 2025. During a June 14, 2025, interview on 105.3 The Fan, Fox Sports' David Hellman noted that the Cowboys should pass on making a run at Miller. At his age, with his injury, not really, Hellman said, per Sports Illustrated. Between what they did with Dante Fowler and then drafting Donovan Ezeraku, I feel pretty good about the edge rushers on the Cowboys roster, so Miller doesn't do a whole lot for me. Miller was previously on a 6-year, $120 million contract with the Bills. The star pass rusher is unlikely to find this same lucrative deal this time around, as evidenced by the defender remaining unsigned. Yet, even with a much cheaper price tag, Dallas is being urged to steer clear of making a run at the defender. Von Miller earned a 82.4 grade from PFF in 2024, indicating the star can still play. Miller possesses an extensive resume, not only as a former Pro Bowler, but a 3-time All-Pro, former Super Bowl MVP, and 2-time Super Bowl champion. The veteran posted 6 sacks, 17 tackles, and 8 quarterback hits in 13 appearances in 2024. Miller has not made a Pro Bowl since 2019, and his days as a superstar pass rusher are likely over. The bigger question is whether Miller can be relied upon as a rotational pass rusher for the Cowboys. Pro Football Focus gave Miller a stellar 82.4 grade out of 100 in 2024, indicating the star still has plenty left in the tank. The Cowboys nearly signed Von Miller in 2022 before the two-time Super Bowl champ joined the Bills on a $120 million deal. There is also a bit of a hometown element to the Cowboys' rumors that have followed Miller throughout his NFL career. Miller is from DeSoto, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. Back in 2022, Miller admitted to being willing to take a bit of a hometown discount to have a star on his helmet. The Bills' offer ended up being too good for Miller to pass up and significantly more money than the Cowboys were offering. "I told them I was ready to come to the Cowboys," Miller told The Athletic's Dan Pompei in a July 7, 2022, feature interview titled, "Von Miller's Path to Bills in First Foray into Free Agency. Buffalo just chose me. I would have taken less to go to Dallas because it's Dallas. But I wouldn't take that much less." What was the Cowboys' offer to Miller at the time? Dallas offered Miller a $70 million deal that was originally intended for Randy Gregory, but this number was much less than the $120 million contract that Buffalo offered. Outside linebacker Randy Gregory initially agreed to terms to return to the Cowboys in March, but then backed out, instead signing with the Broncos, Pompei wrote. Miller says Dallas then offered him the same contract they had negotiated with Gregory, a reported 5-year, $70 million deal with 2 years guaranteed. With training camp on the horizon, the Dallas Cowboys are making preparations for another summer in Oxnard, California. Since minicamp, the Cowboys have made alterations to their roster, adding some pieces. That said, the Cowboys still have holes to fill, and it's not too early to think of the future. The Cowboys have several important contracts to attend to after this season, and many players up for a new contract will not be extended. It would be in Dallas' best interest to acquire as many assets as possible, either in draft capital or players that help them. Before the boys of summer touch down in sunny California, here are 3 players the Cowboys could part with via trade over the next few months. Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn finds himself in a suddenly crowded running back room. Vaughn has failed to land a spot in the regular rotation of running backs. Vaughn has had his moments in the preseason, but it hasn't translated to the regular season. He has only produced 70 rushing yards in 2 professional seasons. If he's not involved in the offense, it's hard to find a place for him. Cavani Turpin is a special teams maven, so despite being a decent returner, Vaughn won't get a chance to contribute in that aspect. Rookie running back Jalen Blue fills a similar role to Vaughn, except he has more explosive straight-line speed. Also, Vaughn is a smaller player at 5 feet 6 inches, 176 pounds, and pass protection has proven challenging for him. That said, somebody else could see value in what he could bring, especially in the special teams return department. At best, he would net no more than a late-round pick or, at worst, a conditional one. Jalen Brooks. Since adding George Pickens in a trade, the Cowboys have 2 excellent wide receivers who can stretch the field and make circus catches. Jalen Tolbert also has improved steadily over the last few seasons and made a few big-time plays, like his game-winning touchdown catch versus the Pittsburgh Steelers last season. While this is good for the Cowboys, this leaves Jalen Brooks in a precarious spot. At one time, he was vying for a chance as the team's 3rd or 4th receiver. Now, he's seeing stiff competition to keep his place on the roster. Ryan Flournoy and Jonathan Mingo have flashed throughout OTAs and minicamp. Also, Brooks made some critical errors in the playing time he received. Despite being 25 years old, Brooks needs more time to develop. Unfortunately, time may be running out in Dallas. If he's not a top 5 receiver on the roster, he becomes disposable. Maybe a team that needs a 4th receiver like Brooks would like to make a deal. Motzie Smith. To whom much is given, much is expected. Sadly, for Motzie Smith, he hasn't lived up to expectations since being drafted in the 1st round by the team. The Cowboys still struggle to contain the run up the middle despite Smith's presence, and it's disappointing given how well Smith anchored the run defense as a collegiate athlete at Michigan. To make matters worse, Smith doesn't offer much upside as a pass rusher. The Cowboys, they have tried to add more defensive tackles to the roster with Jay Toya, Tommy Akinbesto, and most recently Perion Winfrey, in an attempt to solve a long-standing problem. Dallas would be wise to try to recoup some value from Smith before his value decreases further. If Smith has a poor training camp in preseason, a trade could be on the table.